Hi, Pastor Johnson here at the entrance to Shepherd of the Woods Lutheran Church, Southside Blvd. I wanted to introduce you to the property across the street. Over there in the woods is where Shepherd of the Woods began, meeting in a gymnasium as they looked longingly at the property across the street. Shepherd of the Woods in 1985 built the first of their buildings. It was a multi-purpose building that allowed a place for worship, for study of the Word, for fellowship, and for ministries to take place. The question that's going to be answered in this video is whether or not it makes a difference that Shepherd of the Woods is here. The question is sometimes asked, what difference would it make? If your church did not exist, would anyone notice? The answers come from our core principles, what we believe God is calling us to be doing. In 1985, behind those buildings, Shepherd of the Woods built its first building, and that ministry continues to this day. Even as 51,000 cars a day pass by, our signs invite them in, and we have them come through the doors of the church. Let's go there. If you'll notice the doors behind me, those are the ones that if you worship at Shepherd of the Woods Southside, you enter each week. These doors actually have been around since 1985. The core principle is, are we being a witness to all people? That we believe is our cause, and as people, thousands upon thousands, enter through these doors, they come for worship, for study, for community meetings, and for service. Let's go inside and take a look where we worship together. I expect you recognize this room. If you've been a member of Shepherd of the Woods, you likely came through here, even perhaps on your way to the lakeshore. Well, since its beginning, more than 3,000 people have joined the congregation and have placed their crosses on the banners. Thousands upon thousands of times each year, people gather around Word and Sacrament, and that is a core principle. We want to gather and receive God's gifts and offer Him praise and thanksgiving for them. Over the years, more than 500 young people and adults have come forward for baptism to be included in the body of Christ. There were 200 young people who affirmed their baptisms taking place earlier in life as they went through the rite of confirmation. In this place, more than 200 couples promised their faithfulness to one another in the gift of marriage. And there were 200 families who gathered around Word and sometimes the sacrament as they reflected on the loss of their loved one. Those funerals were done in this place to remind them of the faith that brought them here in the first place. But it's not just here where the community gathers. It is in the facilities that we become the church in action. Come with me as we look at some of those facilities. I find it interesting that sometimes as I speak with members, they have never noticed that there is another building alongside the sanctuary. That building is the Shepherd Center, and is one of the buildings that was constructed over the years of the life of our community. In each time, in each age, we found it necessary to have more facilities to be able to do more mission and ministry. Let's take a look at some of those building programs. The building of a church actually doesn't begin with buildings, but with people. And Shepherd of the Woods began in a gymnasium. Across the street was a property that was quickly developed in 1985 to provide a building for the members to gather in worship around Word and Sacrament. That's the building back in 1985. And as we gathered at Christmas time, we worship with the woods looking out the back windows of the church. Our first edition occurred in 1991 to add a narthex. In 1993, we added the Shepherd Center as a place for fellowship and study. In 1997, we added 4 classrooms at the back of the Shepherd Center. Offices and gathering area came next, and then in 2001, we added the new sanctuary, which was called the final one. In 2001, that sanctuary was dedicated as we gathered and gave thanks to God. We gather in that place for children to learn of the faith. We gather for word and for sharing of the sacrament as God feeds his people, as Shepherd of the Woods continues to grow and thrive. So here we are in the Fellowship Hall, the first building that was constructed back in 1985. Now, it was one of the least expensive buildings that we had, but it becomes expensive, especially when it's empty. And therefore, we want to make sure that the buildings are used, and we have a standing policy that any nonprofit ministry group can use any of our facilities at no charge. So in this room, we have a variety of congregational groups that meet, quilters, study groups, fellowship groups, but we also have outside community groups as well. We have OA and NA, Peruvian dance groups, singing chorus groups, and also an organization which is near and dear to us called the ARC. I'd like to introduce you to one of the workers there, the lead at our location, Susie, as she describes what gift Shepherd of the Woods is to that organization and to the clients she serves.
Shepherd of the Woods has been a blessing to the ARC Jacksonville. The donated space accommodates a program that serves adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have the opportunity to partner with different ministries. We assist in the school by helping students with reading and math. We utilize the garden to promote healthy eating. We learn job skills through volunteering at the pumpkin patch, yard sale, and quilting. Shepherd of the Woods gives adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities an opportunity to become more independent and empowers them to reach their full potential. We look forward to our continued partnership.
We are so thankful for those organizations that serve in particular areas of ministry, but we also have our own, and one of our best is that of our Christian Day School. As the facilities were developed here, we had more and more room for our day school. So now with 120 students, half of them are located here at the Southside location. The last core principle I'd like to mention is that of fellowship. We build relationships with one another as we gather as the body of Christ and fellowship together. In this sanctuary that had served for so well and for so long, we have now begun to use it as a fellowship hall. And when we meet for worship in the sanctuary, we also move into this community hall so that we can fellowship with one another. We have a motto here at Shepherd of the Woods. I'm sure you're familiar with it. When we meet, we eat. And so whether it's a community meeting or a gathering after worship, we find ourselves gathering as a family, sharing some cookies and some coffee, and celebrating the life that God has given us together in Shepherd of the Woods. So beginning 35 years ago, a small group of people felt as if God was calling them to serve in the Bay Meadows area and in the world. As thousands of people have walked through those doors, they have been blessed by God through word and sacrament and in the fellowship together. As we have that Southside Boulevard with 50,000 cars going by today, it is estimated by the city that in another 25 years there will be more than 80,000 cars going by. We want to make sure that the mission and ministry that we have established here will continue and be able to provide a place for each and every person who comes. We thank you for your consideration of the Vision for Mission program. For the past 35 years, members of Shepherd of the Woods have been focused on the cross of Christ. I hope you'll enjoy watching other videos of the ministries of our vibrant church.